and welcome to Manx Radio. I'm our election producer Amy Griffiths, and this is our general election candidate interview series. There are just 4 weeks to go now until the island heads to the polls to decide who should have a seat in the House of Keys. Before then, we're inviting all the candidates to take part in a 30-minute interview to tell us why they deserve your vote. Up next, we're hearing from Andrea Krüger, who's standing in Douglas Central. She's been speaking to Phil Gawne.
Falcherugus, Rias Cadge and Shearsfield. Today I'm talking to Andrea Krüger, who's standing for the first time in the constituency of Douglas Central. Why do you want to be an MHK? What motivates you to be an MHK?
I've lived here for 24 years now. I run a couple of businesses and I've seen the Isle of Man change. I experience firsthand on a daily basis the challenges we face, and I don't think that recent administrations have grasped the opportunity to deal with the challenges we have. I've got lots of ideas, so here I am standing.
And we ask all our candidates what are their top priorities, and you've chosen the economy, housing and health. And we'll move on. We'll get onto those shortly. But you also have some local issues in Douglas Central that you mention. You talk about securing the future of our recreational community spaces. Are those spaces under threat, do you think?
I think they potentially are, yes. So the tennis courts and bowling green near Westmoreland Road are not owned by the clubs, even though they've got lots of members are in frequent use, but there is a concern that they only have a few years of usage, even though the bowling green has been there, I think, for well over 100 years. So it would be good for the members to know that their future is secure. I also see a lot of the kindergartens strolling the street with their little kids, tied together so they can't get onto the roadside. I think we need more playgrounds. We need more green spaces for children to play. Most of the houses in Douglas Central towards Circular Road, Tynwald Street, Allen Street, they are Victorian terraces without gardens.
So I mean, you've explained what needs to happen. How would you change that? I mean, what would you do, for example, in relation to the bowling club and the tennis courts to secure a longer-term future?
Well, I wonder if it would be possible for the members to raise funds and to buy the land, or give them. I think the land originally was given by the previous owners of what was the hospice in perpetuity, but members there are not sure that perpetuity is endless. I think there just needs to be assurances given, maybe a written contract if there isn't one, to secure the future and to give peace to the members and to grow the clubs.
Okay. And another thing you mention is reduce speeding with traffic calming measures. One of the MHKs that you would aim to unseat, Anne Corlett, is famously has tried to pursue this particular issue, and the result was the 20 mile an hour speed limits across the island being suggested. I mean, they haven't actually been rolled out as yet. Where do you think things have gone wrong, or do you think that was the right answer?
Okay, so I'm personally not a fan of the 20 mile per hour speed limit. I think every driver has got the opportunity to drive at a speed that is appropriate for the road. For example, Primrose Avenue. I would really be worried if I drove down Primrose Avenue with 20 miles per hour. It's more a 15 or 10 mile per hour road. But many people, when I knock on the doorstep, do complain that putting up 20 mile per hour signs haven't changed anything. So people don't stick to them if it's not reinforced. To me, it would be far more sensible to either use little speed bumps or maybe big planters, which of course would cost valuable parking spaces. But I think physical measures would be more successful than signage.
And I'm sure if you spoke to the DOI highways team, they would agree with you. Improve the public transport facilities. So what do you want to change there?
Well, again, I have to say I don't use public transport an awful lot, but I notice that many bus stops, for example, don't have shelters. So people stand in the rain and the howling wind at daytime, at nighttime. I think we need an awful lot more bus shelters, and we need bus shelters with seats so people can sit rather than stand for 10, 20 minutes. Bus shelters, I think, would be a good first step.
Okay. One of the next page of your manifesto, we look at creating a strong, confident Ireland. One of your suggestions is to reduce red tape. Well, if I had £1 for every wannabe MHK and indeed existing MHKs that have said they want to do this, I'd be very rich. So how are you going to do that? I mean, you talk about simplifying rules. Government must facilitate and support, not stifle. But how do you make this happen?
I think by departments sharing information more freely. I give you an example. I hope it's appropriate. So I fly a lot. I own the flying school, so I fly a lot. And when we fly off island and we come back, obviously air traffic control knows how many people we've got on board, where we've been, when we land. Yet when we come back, I've got to fill in another form saying at what time have I left, where have I gone, at what time have I come back, how many people were on board. It's just, there are so many situations where sharing of information between departments would cut out a lot of hassle.
But I suppose that then ties in with one of the things that you found on the doorstep, which was that immigration is seen as an issue. So,
yes,
one of the reasons you have to fill that form in is so that people know that you aren't importing a whole load of people illegally.
I fully agree. So we fill in a form before we fly with several hours' notice to Border Force and the police, both in the UK and on the Isle of Man, with passport numbers, with addresses. And then for coming back, it's exactly the same. Plus then the form once we've landed. And it doesn't sound a lot, but 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there adds up over the day and makes a very long day. And it happens in all walks of life. And I fully agree that we should have either passport or identity controls at ferries, at harbours when people sail in on their own private yacht, because that could also bring a lot, of unknown people in. I don't mind immigration control, so we know who's here and who's gone.
And I suppose that's the point I was trying to make there, was that I imagine every single form that you would perhaps want to not have to fill in will be being filled in for a purpose. So how do you identify which forms, or perhaps, I don't know, is it a different way of approaching the gathering of information, perhaps? I
think so. Filling 3 forms with the same information in is just an awful lot. So if departments were to share, obviously Border Force has the information, Border Force in the UK has the information, Air Traffic has the information, although not names. So if there was more centralised information holding, not every form would have to be filled in 3 times, but maybe just once.
So then another thing you mention is improving the education system. This is in your Create a Strong, Confident Ireland section. Lots of suggestions as to how you might do that, but most of that includes more money.
I think the priority at the moment seems to be on academic qualifications, A-level, GCSEs, but a lot of people really, their talent is more vocational. So rather than expecting everybody to achieve GCSEs or A-levels to be allowed into certain training programs, why not concentrate more on vocational, especially for the trades? So offering courses at UCM, which there are already, don't set the bar too high. Not everybody has a brain for academia.
Yeah. But you do you do list, I should say, support for teachers, aim for smaller class sizes. I mean, smaller class size basically means more teachers.
Yes.
And more teachers means more budget.
Yes. But we pay for that by growing and strengthening the economy. So the economy really is the heart of everything, isn't it? All the services that we do expect to be provided have to be paid for. So the economy has to be the priority. Grow the economy, become more entrepreneurial friendly, which means international businesses will come back. We need to look after the businesses that are here, fisheries, agriculture, tourism, banking. The shipping registry was very successful, but we need to look after those.
You talk about unlocking private investment. Partner with investors to fund infrastructure growth, secure reliable transport links to attract international business. I mean, how are you going to do those things?
With innovation hubs. So innovation hubs where inventors, creators and investors can meet and join forces will provide a good start. And they don't have to be big hubs, but they need to be easily accessible. So I think innovation and creation needs to be prioritized.
Okay. Then we move on to the let's get it done. I like the sound of that. So focus on solving the problems. So what would you change from the way in which government approaches getting things done to make it more likely to happen?
Well, again, everybody has to pull into the same direction. We all need to have a goal of improving the economy and with that the island. So it would be good to hear from people on the front line in the public sector where they see that efficiencies could be created, where waste could be reduced. Call on people to come forward and say where they think we can improve things rather being top down, be bottom up, hear suggestions and appreciate them.
We need an effective and efficient government, you say, and you say waste less, want less mentality. That's quite a bold statement, really. That not so much the waste less. I think everybody would say that that's important, but wanting less, it's quite a bold thing for a politician to say.
Yes, but I would say sometimes we do need to make do with what we've got. We need to live within our means. We can't keep overspending. We need to start saving and ideally rebuilding the NI fund, rebuilding reserves. So in my life, my car's 13 years old. I would love a new car, but I don't need it. My car's doing fine, so I make do with it. And there are many opportunities where we don't need new or where we don't need color-printed forms if it only is going to end up in a drawer anyway, print black and white. It'll cause a saving. So lots of little savings will add up.
You also talk about reducing inefficiencies in the system. Well, how do you do this?
Well, again, comes back to an earlier point where I say filling 3 forms in all with the same information isn't very efficient. Share information. We need to look at, do we need as many departments in government necessarily, because there's a lot of duplication. How many CEOs do we need? How many department heads? They all come with their support staff. Can things be merged, which then would either make positions redundant, or those people could be deployed in other areas where we need to become quicker and more able to react quickly.
The accountability you move on
Yes.
to, and you talk about named people to be responsible for the delivery of results. Now, what we know is that in most areas of government, there's quite a lot of people are involved in issues. Often, lots of different departments are involved in coming up with answers. Certainly housing, which we'll come on to, there are several departments that have some level of responsibility for that. So how do you make one person accountable in relation to some of the more complex areas?
Well, it's like a private business, isn't it? Ultimately, the buck stops with the boss, with the CEO. So we have to have accountability at the top. It's not easy and it's not nice. If I mess up, I have to sort it out in my own business. So the same should be in government departments. If you get the big wage, if you want the job at the top, you have to take the responsibility with it.
And what would that mean in terms of taking responsibility?
Well, we need to have measurable goals. For housing, we might say we need 1,000 new units. How do we achieve it? Then there has to probably be an island-wide strategy on how to achieve it. I, for example, think that housing should be concentrated in and around Douglas to reduce congestion, to reduce commuting times. It's dreadful to drive in from outside of Douglas. Parking is restricted in Douglas. There aren't enough parking spaces. So if people were to live closer, they could either use public transport or they could cycle in or walk in. People are quite sporty here. It's amazing, how many people you see cycling and hiking. And I'm sure a lot would probably do that to go to work if they lived close enough.
So would you support the active travel policies that the government has? I think they've probably not had so much of a focus on in the last 4 or 5 years, but would you be supportive of that?
Yes, I would. But bus fares, for example, also have to be affordable. We need to provide better park and ride so people can drive closer to the bus stop, or to the train stop, leave their car and then ride in on the train or on the bus. Because many people live quite remotely, so they've got to get themselves to the nearest bus stop.
We'll move then on to housing, and which you've sort of drawn us into that area. You talk about the housing crisis is holding our island back.
Yes.
We must act with urgency and determination. We need more homes. So where would you build them?
Okay. So we've got quite a few brownfield sites, so they need to be utilised, be it Westmoreland, be it the old Park Road School site, be it the old Fairfield site. There is Summerland Quarry. There are lots. Some are in private hands, others are government owned, but they certainly lend themselves for redevelopment.
But of course, brownfield sites are famously expensive to develop.
They are, but we're looking ahead for future generations. This is not a short-term benefit, and I have got ideas on how to generate funds to put into housing. So I've got to look this up because I would just explain it in a really long-winded way. It's I would like to see self-built plots provided by the public sector, which would be a land value capture to reinvest into brownfield site and into affordable housing. And with that, I mean that government that owns land has it zoned, puts in the sewers and the streets, basically provides self-built plots, which it then sells on. And of course, by zoning it, by creating plots, the value of the land rises. So when they sell the plots on, they get their money back for creating the plots, and the profit that they make will be in government or council hands rather than private speculators or developers. So that money can then be taken to build affordable houses or to redevelop the brownfield sites.
You talk about establishing a housing cooperative. Why would you want to do that?
Well, I've grown up in a housing cooperative-owned apartment block, and they are quite big in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. Originally, they were founded by private individuals due to big housing shortage around 1860, and from 1920 the public sector also invested into housing cooperatives. People own a share of the company, which gives them a feeling of ownership and responsibility. If the company does well, they get a little dividend every year. But it secures affordable homes because they're not for profit, those housing cooperatives, and people live in them for decades. On the continent, there isn't the need to own. People don't feel the urge to own because they know that their rental property is at a fair price and they have it for as long as they want. So there are no year-long contracts. You can have kids, you can have pets. If your family grows, you can apply and move into a larger apartment. When you're old, you can move into a smaller apartment. It's basically security. You know that you've always got somewhere to live for your family.
Douglas City Council does a pretty good job in terms of providing housing, though, doesn't it? What would be the difference between a local government housing and a cooperative?
Well, in the cooperative, people own a share, so they buy a share. Price will be set. It might be £200, it might be £2,000. It needs to be worked out by experts. But there is the sense of ownership, and they are in very good condition. I've been knocking on the doorstep, of course, and some people were quite disappointed with the state of their property. So if they have ownership, I would like to think that they will be in a better condition.
Okay. Then we move on to health and community services. What do you want to change there?
I think it's probably building on what we have already. I think we need more care in the home. So it's an opportunity for private companies to provide care in the home so that people that are medically well and don't need to be in nobles anymore can be released. At the moment, I believe there are many people in nobles that can't be released because there's no care for them when they go back home. So I think it's a big issue. We need people to be able to leave nobles, to free up beds. And again, I spoke with a lady that's been doing care in the home for years, and the company she works for had 20 carers when she started. Now they're back down to 4, which comes down to immigration. They're now struggling to attract people that are suitably qualified and interested, willing, in doing the work. It's a cycle. The whole island life, of course, nothing is in isolation. Everything goes hand in hand.
Well, we'll maybe come back a bit to health, I should say. But immigration, you've raised it now. You describe yourself as an immigrant to the Isle of Man.
I am.
What is the situation that you're hearing on the doorstep? Because you say this is a big issue that's been raised with you.
Yes, I would say 60% of people do have concerns about immigration. And most people accept that we need immigration, but they call it the right type. So we need immigrants that contribute, that benefit the island, and in return the island benefits them. The island has benefited me. I came as an architect and I've worked every day, founded companies. I'm employing a few people, be it freelance, as my professions aren't very steady. We can be really busy or not very busy. It goes in waves. And for some reason, both businesses are busy at the same time. But especially in the care sector, I've heard Filipinos predominantly saying that it is very difficult now for them to get visas, very expensive for companies to get visas. And until we've got homegrown talent that wants to go into care, that is qualified as nurses, we need immigration.
And how, is it ever going to be possible to get homegrown talent to go into these roles? Because effectively, let's be honest about this. These are roles that most people don't particularly want to do. Most Manx people, anyway. Most people based in the island.
Yeah. I think we need to appreciate carers more. It's a huge responsibility to be a carer. And I would like to see properties developed that allow multi-generational homes so that families can part-time look after their relatives and have support from the outside. Yes, I think carers need to be supported greatly, financially, reputationally. We need to appreciate them. They're doing a marvellous job and they're keeping the buck of the NHS free.
Well, I did say we would come back to health, but I've just noticed we're on 27 minutes now, just got a couple of minutes left. So if you could tell us in a nutshell why people should vote for Andrea Krüger as candidate for Douglas Central.
Okay. I'm really passionate about improving island life and making sure that the island flourishes. Having lived here for 24 years, I've raised my children here, and being in the private sector, I have had immense opportunities from the island. I've built a life here, and I understand the frustrations of the population. I'm experiencing them as well, and I would like to tackle them, and I think I'm the person to do it.
And if you are successful and you get a seat in the House of Keys, what should people judge you by in 5 years' time? What's the things that you would hope that people will notice about your role?
Delivery of affordable housing, both for rent and to purchase.
And an ambition of, if you had one thing that you could deliver in the next 5 years, what would that be?
A strong economy and an island everybody flourishes in.
That was Andrea Krüger, who's standing for election in Douglas Central. Also standing in the constituency are Anne Corlett, George Hargreaves, Sharon Bridgens, Peter Shimmin, Chris Thomas and Devon Watson. You can listen back to this interview along with all the others recorded as part of this series shortly after broadcast from your usual podcast provider. And don't forget, for everything you need to know about the general election, just head to our dedicated website, which you can find at manxradio.com.